In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, who came to us in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, we are forever grateful for his coming, and we thank him for our divine leader and teacher, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the Messenger of Allah. As-Salaam Alaikum. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. My name is Brother Shah-Allah Shabazz. I am a student and a follower of the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the Messenger of Allah. Making this recording, I guess, as a tribute to a brother who was very instrumental in my growth and development. I received some news the other day that this brother was found dead in his bathtub, and he had been laying there for I don't know, a couple of days. I didn't receive any details. I just heard that he had passed away and that the funeral was going to be in New York. I was thrown aback by this news. It hurt me deeply, and after I received the news, I went online and I started looking at some of these old pictures. There's a book out there written, or it's not necessarily written, but there's a brother, he's a photographer. His name is Brother Jamel Shabazz, and this brother, he's been a photographer for decades now, and he's been documenting history by taking pictures throughout the city of New York, primarily, from what I can gather, but also, elsewhere. And there's this book called A Time Before Crack, and in this book, the brother, compiled a bunch of photos that he took. I guess the title is self-explanatory, right? So I was just looking at a lot of these pictures, and when I saw in the spirit of some of those brothers, I saw the look in their eyes, the strength, the determination, and I got to wondering, what happened to that? And I began reflecting on my own journey in Islam and where I've been over the last several years. And where I've been over the last several years, and some of the mistakes that I made over the years, things that I've said about people on the internet, it was very immature, wrong for me to say those things. It's a very critical time that we're in. I'm sure that you are aware of the consequences of the destruction of our nation, our covenant with God, who came in the person of Master Farad Muhammad. The consequences are so numerous that it's difficult sometimes to encapsulate these devastations in words. Some of those brothers that I saw in those pictures, if you saw them today, it would be like you were even looking at a different human being. And in my own memory, being younger than a lot of those brothers, but even in my own memory, I can remember a time when, brothers would say, that Islam thing, or our parents, or, they would say the older generation, that Islam thing, it cleaned my son up, it cleaned my daughter up, gave them some structure. Even things as basic as getting up in the morning and making your bed, ironing your clothes, making sure you clean, you're refined, your appearance, you smell good, you look good, your skin is shining because you're fasting and you're eating properly. Like, just a lot of that stuff that was a staple of our culture is no longer present. And I have to say that in my younger years and how I handled things, and now looking back in retrospect, I was dead wrong, man. for attacking. I wasn't wrong. Let me say it like this. I wasn't wrong for attacking what I perceived as deviation. And I still believe that there are deviations. But I was wrong for how I went about it. Our community, our believing community, and the general community of our people suffers from the lack of strength in the nation. And even though it was never my intention to work against the nation and the progress of the nation, I can see how my emotions may have been used, not deliberately by anyone. It's not like, your brother was deliberately doing anything that he felt was wrong, but the division in the ranks is killing us. The infighting, the bickering is killing us. It is devastating us. Our communities are being taken over by outside forces. Like the messenger said, we're a nation of consumers. We consume everything from people outside of us, and we don't produce anything for ourselves. We have brothers right now that would be willing to accept the teachings, but we don't have anything to offer them of tangible sustenance wherein they can provide for themselves and their families. No one wants to be called into a civil war. Here it is, we saying that we are the champions of unity under the banner of the sun, moon, and star, which represent peace. And we are at odds with one another, confused, don't know whether we're coming or going. And then we sit down and we wonder why people aren't coming in droves to the temple or the mosque. I pray Allah that I am absolved in His eyes for the wrong that I've done, if I have ever contributed to the dissension and to the division of Allah's ranks. There are things that are beyond my control. I'm aware of that. There are powers working in this world that are far greater than me. There are decisions that are made at the top that are beyond me. I think that in my immaturity, I guess the hallmark of youth is an ego out of control. And sometimes your ego can blind you. But I don't want to cause any dissension, because I know how hard the Honorable Elijah Muhammad worked to see us free, justified, and equal under our own flag, among our own people. So, in the memory of my brother Justice, who caught me when I was slipping, in the memory of all the brothers that contributed to my growth and development. In the honor of the men who came before me and those who will come after me, from the deepest regions of my heart, I apologize to you if I caused the further exasperation of tensions and division in Allah's ranks. I don't make any excuses for telling the truth. I will not ever conform to an environment that seeks to make me a robot. I do have my own mind. I have my own opinions. But I think as I've gotten older, I have begun to realize that one can have their own opinions and one can have their own mind, but that doesn't necessarily have to translate into causing division. That there can be a balance struck. There has to be protocols put in place for believers to express their opinions without fear of being called hypocrites. It's terrible that people feel that kind of pressure to agree with everything and not have an independent thought. We can deliberate behind closed doors outside of the presence of our enemies who seek to do us harm. We can deliberate in our small circles, large circles, and escalate problems all the way to the top to receive justice. One of the things that I have learned in my studies is the wisdom of the separation of powers. Now, the messenger told us that a government of our own. He also told us that it would be built on something entirely new. But history has taught us that people benefit from the exchanging of ideas, the exchanging of goods and services. We have a lesson. We have several lessons on trading. We have several verses on trading in the Holy Qur'an as well. But the separation of powers is something that I have found to be a brilliant concept. I think that protocols can be established for believers to express their opinions without fear of being blanketed with charges of hypocrisy. It doesn't make someone a hypocrite to have an opinion. Hypocrisy is to make war against Allah and His Messenger. That's hypocrisy. What made Malcolm a hypocrite wasn't that he went to Mecca and had some tea with some white folks and had a change of heart, came back an Orthodox Muslim. He could have stepped away, right?
I mean, belief and disbelief is between Allah and the believer or the disbeliever. Our Qur'an teaches us that if Allah wanted everyone to believe, surely that would be the case. Our job as civilized people is simply to delineate a clear message. But belief is with Allah. No, what made Malcolm a hypocrite was that he made open war against Allah and the Messenger. And it has been a tool of propaganda that has been used by the enemies of the rise of our people ever since. What made Wallace a hypocrite was not that he disagreed with his father. What made him a hypocrite was that he worked against his father and was not solely responsible, but there are very few people, or he was in fact the main proponent of the destruction of something that his father worked his whole adult life to build, and that hundreds of thousands of people, if not millions of people, benefited from. People went back to shooting drugs. People went back to eating hog. Real things happened, man. Not just a change in belief or a change in look, but there were very real destructive consequences to what he did. And that's what made him a hypocrite. But having an opinion doesn't make you a hypocrite. There are some cultural things that need to change. There are some adjustments that need to be made, but these adjustments can be made without doing injury to the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the Messenger of Allah. We have been given instructions, all of the evidence that we need and that we require is provided for us in the Holy Qur'an, the teachings, the writings, the articles, and the history of our nation and the history of the broader world that would support the onward march of the nation of Islam. I want to help. I want to help. I'm not your enemy. I love you very much. I will make a commitment on my sacred honor to cease and desist in my open attacks on those who carry the banner of the sun, moon, and star. We can have what the old mafia dons used to call a sit down, man. Dude like God looked like Don Corleone, man, and in the scene in The Godfather. I want you to arrange a meeting with the heads of the 5 families. I want no vengeance taken. I mentioned history. I mentioned examples, right? I mean, I'm being facetious, semi-facetious, but yes, that's what I am suggesting to some degree. That, listen, man, we don't have to let the world know what we're thinking. We don't have to let them know what we're doing. Every nation has issues, man. Do not divide your religion up into sects and into parties. That is what the Holy Qur'an teaches. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, unity is more powerful than an atomic bomb. Unity under the sun, the moon, and the star. But unity will not come without the expense of time, energy, sweat, equity. We have to work through our problems, and we have to work to eliminate those who would seek to oppose the rise of the nation and the subsequent rise of our people as a result of the strength of our nation. I pray Allah that you take this message in the proper spirit and recognize my extension of an olive branch in the love and memory of my brother Justice, and in the sacred honor of the Honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad and his divine teacher, Master Wallace Farad Muhammad. Not necessarily in that order. God in person. Master Farad Muhammad, to whom all holy praises are due forever. I extend this olive branch to you. I will be putting contact information in the description below. Let's get together. Let's resolve these issues. There's some of you who, I don't need to mention, some of you have violated, I try not to preoccupy myself with too much negative thoughts nowadays, because life is too short, man. Some of us, we just need to be separated, and that's fine. I won't oppose you. Don't oppose me. Walk our separate ways, and we don't have to bother one another. I'm at peace. But that doesn't apply to everyone. May Allah bless you. And may Allah bless us all with the light of understanding as I greet you, as I came before you in the greeting words of peace and of paradise. As-Salaam Alaikum.